All right.
Hi, this is Kristi Simonson with the Lion's Call, and we are so glad to be interviewing tonight Nicole Stratton, who's the artistic director for Logos. Am I saying that correctly?
We pronounce it Logos, but a lot of people say
Logos?
Logos as well. Yes.
Okay, for Logos Theater. I knew
Yes.
I was saying Logos for a while, and I knew that was wrong. So Logos Theater, and this is Swanwhite with me. She is going to help with the interview, and we are just very excited to learn about this production that they're mounting of The Silver Chair, and we have lots of questions.
Well, I'm very, very honored that you guys have had me. I'm so excited to get to talk to you guys kind of face to face, which is nice. We get to do this through Zoom.
Yeah.
But we were really thankful to have you guys. You guys came all the way down to South Carolina to see Horse and His Boy. And that was now I'm realizing how far you guys came to see it. It's amazing.
No regrets. That was, go ahead, Sarah. Swan?
Oh, sorry, I just said highlight of my life.
Oh,
yeah, agreed. I see a lot of theater, Broadway, off-Broadway. We've got the Pacific Conservatory for the Performing Arts up in Solvang and Santa Maria that does some very nice work, and this is right in there with anything I've ever seen. I one of my top theater experiences.
That is
apart
so
from loving the story.
Yeah. The story is, man, I think the scariest part obviously was people thought it was going to be the horses, but for me it was the twins. Trying to, thinking about finding two guys that were the right age, the appropriate look, who could act and who looked alike. So
right, and I think one of them was a good deal older than the other, wasn't he?
He is a good deal older than Isaiah. Interestingly enough, Isaiah, I've known their family since before he was born. Mm-hmm. He's grown up in our ministry and done a lot of acting with us through the years. And so when we thought about doing Horse and His Boy, Isaiah came to my mind for Shasta. His tenderness, he has a command on stage, but he's also very tender-hearted, and he's, not an arrogant boy. He's a very humble boy, but he's a leader. And he's actually really good at puppetry. So he helped to make his horse.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We asked him to come on as an apprentice to our puppeteer designer. So it was fun for him to get to do some major puppetry work. But crazy story was that boy who played Corin, he came to see Caspian. And he was with Josh Baker, who used to run the ministry Living Like Lucy, who he's now with us at the Logos Theater. And so he came to see Caspian. He loved it. And we needed to go on the news to promote Prince Caspian. And all of us were busy. So Josh said, hey, I know this guy from back in Virginia, and he can go as Peter. So I'm like, oh, great. That's great. So he gets all dressed up and he goes on the news. And I watched the news clip that night and I looked at it. I'm like, who is that kid? He looks just like Isaiah. And so I asked Josh, and he said, oh, he told me who he was. And he said he lived in Virginia. So I wondered, would this young man be willing to come to Virginia to play this role? He's going to have to be here for a good 4 months. He's going to have to grow his hair really long, and a lot of life changes. And come to find out, he was going to be a firefighter. He was planning on proposing to his girlfriend, and he put all of that off to come and play Corin. And the cool thing you guys will like is he told me, I said, and I asked him, I said, why are you coming? And he said, I feel called. I feel like I'm being called to do it. So it was a really great experience to work with Ethan, and Ethan and Isaiah, they became like brothers. They would spat back and forth a lot, even behind the scenes, where they kind of, I think, started taking on their roles a little bit.
Yeah, they were great.
Yes, and I love that you went with the kind of the shaggy hair that's sort of depicted in the Pauline Baines illustrations. I don't think it would have been quite the same if they'd all had buzz cuts or something.
They were gracious to do that, and because we really don't have the funding, I didn't have the funding to do wigs for everyone. So I was like, guys, are you willing to actually, grow your hair? And then I actually helped do their makeup every night. So I would style it the same way and try to make their hair look similar, because Ethan actually had a lot of body to his hair, and Isaiah's hair is more flat. So I had to use a straightener on Ethan every night, poor guy. but he actually now has proposed to his girlfriend, and they're going to be married here soon. So that
Aw.
continued to progress. She actually came down and saw the show, and she was very supportive of the whole thing, which was great.
Good. Yeah, that's so you wear a lot of hats. I take it. I was wondering. Yeah, you really, with the kinds of productions you do, it seems that you really have to be very careful how you appropriate your budget, because you get a lot of, I don't know what the bucks are. You got a lot of bang for your buck, I imagine.
Yes, and that's what I think some people think. Like, we went over to Scotland. We were nominated to go to Scotland, and we took a Narnia play over there.
Mhm.
And people said, they did this big write-up on us, and they said, this group that came with the Broadway budget. And I just, I had to laugh really hard, because I was like, if you only knew. But, you know, for us, and one of the things that the Lord really did in my heart working on the script was, I felt that fatigue that Shasta was feeling, where I was like, Lord, how much longer can we go without the funding, without the support? We're trying to do, you know, not only the Narnia books, but every production that we're doing, we're trying to do it with everything that we have as professional as possible. And when the funding isn't there, sometimes you're going, Lord, what's going on? And yet he was talking to me through the book of just keep running, run as fast as you can. And I'm there. And even sometimes he used fear to make us keep going, and other things but it ministered to my heart while I was working on the scripts. And I was surprised when we first started doing the Narnia books, because there was a lot of excitement, but then I had people who came out that were against C.S. Lewis, you know, and I've even had conversations recently about that. And you know, I'm trying to be respectful of everybody's, you know, different opinions, but I also know what the Lord has done in my heart through the books, truths that I have learned and been bolstered in, the excellence of the work. It's just, you know, and I know as a little girl, my dad would read the books to us, and my imagination was just awakened by all the different things. So I'm thankful for someone like him who was willing to go, I guess, outside the box and to really do something that was great and creative, and then give us the gift of being able, you know, to enjoy the books and then to try to do what we're doing with them. So it's been a journey, and I want people to know the importance of Christians in the arts, and that
Absolutely.
Christians, if they want more of it, they do need to really, I mean, not trying to be rude, but they've got to put their money where their mouth is. If they really want that kind of stuff, they've got to support it. So
Right. That was one of the reasons that you were recently in a show called A Peep Behind the Scenes, and that was one of the reasons that I don't think that's not running anymore, but you were doing your virtual Logos Theater. And do you have, is the Ant and the Grasshopper still running?
it is, and we've added several shows to that virtual Logos Theater. And so we're putting up even some of our short films and different things. And of course, we've had a lot of people asking us if we can stream the Narnia ones, but those are ones you have to come and see live because of copyright issues. So you're not allowed to film them or show any live streaming, but you know, you can come see them live. And we've been really praying and talking. We actually had a big long meeting today about the possibility of them touring.
Oh, I'd love it.
So when we actually did the tour over to Scotland, it kind of proved to us that we were able to take things. We shipped a whole container over by boat and then performed over there. We were walking up and down the Royal Mile with our puppets, and you know, that was an amazing experience. But it also showed us that the books are travelable. We have to think of it at the beginning when we design the show to travel, but that's something that I feel like, you know, if we're going to put the effort into mounting these things, not everybody can come to South Carolina, you know, but if we could come people, that might be a helpful thing.
Absolutely. I was on that note. So were you able to ship the rotating stage, or did you make some design changes?
That's a great question. We actually had to we made some design changes to the set and then simulated everything with our people. So when we were doing things like the Beaver's Dam, then the creatures were coming out and moving the Beaver's Dam around while they're escaping, and different things like that. And it was a fun challenge. I like the challenge. I've enjoyed even COVID-19 in that way. I like thinking outside the box. So you definitely have to think outside the box with all this going on. And that that point is that we've been really, just pray for us on this silver chair. We had a plan. We were so excited about doing it, and we still are, but we're just considering the timing of when we would do it because of everything shutting down. We need to be able to really raise the money to be able to mount it without, hurting the ministry.
Right.
Yeah.
I was
I was
wondering
going to ask,
about
like,
that.
how far along, like, stuff for the silver chair is, like, how much is written or planned or so forth.
I'm working on the script right now, and I
Yeah.
really just like to basically saturate myself in the book a whole lot.
Yeah.
I will tell you a funny thing with Horse and His Boy. I'm always looking at the word count as well.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm trying to keep it where I'm true to the book. But again, like I said, not everybody can sit for 4 hours, so I'm trying to keep it, doable. But I had the whole section of Corin highlighted and ready to delete because I was actually 2,000 and something words over Prince Caspian. And I thought, how in the world? Because Prince Caspian was the longest I've ever done. And I thought, I can't be 2,000 and something words over Prince Caspian. There's no way. That's way too long. So I started I cut the whole Corin section out, and I had to start chopping it down. And I thought, so then I got into rehearsals, and all the way we were, how we were trying to keep it seamless, where you were inside the story. As she's telling the story, you're experiencing the story.
The character shifts from being in one place to the reminiscence. Yeah, and he would just walk from, telling the story to Shasta, and suddenly he was in it, meeting with the guards and everybody he fought with.
Yes.
That was one of the best parts.
Well, because of that technique, it actually gave us more time. And so in the rehearsals, while we were rehearsing, we're already, we're coming up on the opening. I came to the young man, Ethan, and I said, listen, I think we're going to have enough time to put that Corin section back in, because it was my favorite parts of the whole script. And I thought, we've got to work this in. So I said, are you willing to memorize? Because how he tells that story and they're picking him up and he has all this talking he has to do. I said, are you willing to memorize all those lines? He's like, give me the script, I can do it. So he came back the next practice and had the whole thing memorized. So we stuck that back in, and I was so thankful.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been, what it was without it. So right now I'm just praying that I can make sure I'm as true to that story as possible while trying to make it as doable as we can. The thing we really wanted to stretch ourselves on with Silver Chair, though, was projections, because the underworld collapsing and the different things that we'd have to depict, it would be, we have met this amazing man who does all of this like really great graphics work that would be amazing to be able to incorporate into a show. So that, that is more money. And up till now, we have not had to put a ton of money into tech, because we've tried to do it with mainly what we can build and what we have in our imagination. But the projection world, it's hard to cut corners on the cost. So
what did I see recently? There was, I know, it was the Jesus show that the play that they streamed from Branson over Easter
LED
weekend.
Okay, so an LED screen for our size theater is going to be, up closer to, I don't know, 500,000, getting up to 800,000 just for an LED screen of that size. I cannot imagine how much their LED screen cost, but it's gorgeous and it's usable in a show. And I'm a little bit more of a textured. I don't really like the movie world invading the theater world as much. I'd like to make the two worlds kind of not feel like they're completely separate.
Right.
But if I could have some help from projections, that would be super nice.
Right. There are times when it works and there are times when it doesn't, without naming shows. I can think of one time where I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I'd never seen a full production screen used that way for a background of a show. And it really brought you into what the story was in a way I'd never seen that story told before. But there were also moments where the characters would say something about, going up to these mountains, and you're like, those mountains are not as described in your dialogue. So you've got to be very careful. That was one thing with the Jesus production. I thought they matched everything up and they illustrated everything the way that they needed to, so that the foregrounds and the backgrounds flowed together. But I agree, there is something also charming about the the built feel of using,
Mm.
real things on a set. But there's
And so
certainly
much,
places for each.
yeah, and guys about like theater being part of the audience having a participation of their imagination being engaged, which was one of the things we really relied upon with Shasta coming off the horse in slow motion. We were going to say, okay, come with us and we're going to do this, and you guys imagine what we're doing. And it was one of those things that was like, this is either going to be really good or it's going to flop, so you've got to take some risks sometimes. But right now we are getting back to your question about Silver Chair. We're in production, major production with the Snake.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
So he's got some really great design work, and he's actually starting to make some prototypes and different things so we can start playing around with it and seeing, how it would actually function.
Yeah.
But he's been working really hard on that. We don't want to stop. We want to keep moving forward. And right now it seems like we'd have to postpone it, put it a year off from where we are right now. But we definitely want to keep moving as if we have to do it this December.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And for me, I'm kind of going like, please put it off, because otherwise I'll have to get tickets at the last minute if I want to fly out to see it, and they'll be really expensive. But
well,
I wish you all the best, whichever way it works out.
Oh, well, this was a funny story, but what happened, we had another plan of doing a different book, and then last minute, through some different conversations with Mr. Gresham and everything, we decided it was going to be Silver Chair. And so I'm like, okay, guys, we got to put a video together. What are we going to do? Like, we don't have anything built yet.
Yeah.
And Josh Baker came to the rescue because he had a chair that he had bought at auction at different times for a certain thing. It won't be the chair that we use. I would never break that chair. I felt like,
oh right,
because break your chair, Josh, I promise.
Yeah.
But
right, yeah.
We definitely have to design. We definitely have to design one as much as described and build it, and it has to be where it can break apart and go back together several times.
Oh yeah.
But he let us use the chair, and everything went together, and literally in less than 2 hours we had everything put together, and we shot the promo video.
That was such a good promo video. I really felt it. I felt like it got to the heart of the story. Yeah.
It's a gorgeous promo. And I was going, how do they have that chair built already? Yeah, I was wondering.
I was wondering that too.
Oh yeah, because we were going to ask about, so the order, you weren't sure what order you were going to do the books in. It's kind of depending on various factors, or?
Yes, and like I would love to do like Voyage of the Dawn Treader, but right now, as you saw with our stage, unless I had major projections or something, this ship that I'd like to build that is in my head, it would just take up too much space. We don't have enough room.
Yeah.
And there's always ways to redesign it, but I just want to do them justice. I don't really want to do them unless I feel like we could do them well. Yeah. And so the Silver Chair seemed like, even though when you're sitting in the meeting and everybody's bringing up all the things in the book, well, this has to happen and this has to happen. And I'm like,
giants.
Oh,
giants, yeah.
Giants, I know. I'm like, oh, great. And C.S. Lewis's wonderful imagination.
Yeah.
Have mercy.
He don't make it easy on us.
No, he doesn't. But it was one of the books, and I also really loved the message, which is, I think, very apropos to right now. As things are progressing in the world, and I'm really looking forward to the return of the Lord, and him just reminding me to obey his word, to follow the sign, and to obey right away, and to not let fear or other things, the distractions, to distract me,
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I've been thinking about, like, just maybe an hour or two ago, I reread something I'd written about the Silver Chair, and I'd gotten kind of excited about it, and I'd kind of forgotten, but just this idea that the kids at the beginning at Experiment House the bullying is so bad because everyone is just allowed to encouraged to do whatever they felt like best. That would be that school of thought, is that whatever you want is what's going to be good for you. And then the whole story is like, no, obedience, what you don't want right now, is actually going to be the good thing. And so addiction and desire and giving and falling prey to that and becoming a slave to that is like is the theme through all these different aspects of the story. And then, yeah, again, following the signs is the freedom, is the, and going through all the hardship is actually in the reward. And anyway, yeah,
it's so good. And kids need this right now. I mean,
Yeah.
adults need it too, but especially there's so much bullying, and even my heart just gets really heavy when I see different things online that have been going on, and the cruelty
Yeah.
to each other, the lack of kindness. And it is because we are doing what's right in our own eyes.
Yeah.
And to be able to address that, to show that, and to give kids a voice, because if they are feeling that, to be able to see someone else experiencing that and then say, I've experienced that before, and see how they triumphed over it, how the lessons that they learned actually helped them to get over that. I just am really burdened right now for young people, and we've been talking about that a lot in our ministry, is as it gets, the way things are progressing. Like, I have a 10-year-old son, and I just want him to learn some of these really important lessons, and to actually get into really great books, and to find answers to what they're seeing going on right now, which is a lot of sadness and a lot of depression in young children.
Yeah.
You know, the age is getting younger where children are finding despair. Or
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day of a young boy, and you know, he had ended up taking his own life at 12. And I just, you know, if our ministry can have a voice into kids' lives, not only through them seeing the production, but even the ones that I get to have in the production with me, and I can help them see that they are, you know, so worth something, that God sees them as very valuable. You know, that to me is why we're doing what we're doing at the Logos Theater. We're trying to actually project messages of hope. And so C.S. Lewis's books are perfect for that. They're just, you know, wonderful. So
They are. And it's interesting how things you learn as a child, you know, the Bible says that if you train up a child in the way he should go, he will not depart from it when he's older. But books that you read and things that you internalize in childhood stick with you at the most unexpected times. I've got a funny one that I fell off a horse once when I was maybe 18. And I laid on the ground because somewhere in my brain it went, even in battle, horses fall off the horses step on people much less than one might imagine, which of course, and it took me till after, and the horse did step on me, by the way, thank you, Mr. Lewis, that wasn't quite, but it's interesting what comes to your mind, that, you know, it took me a minute to go, where did I get that from? Oh, right. So it's interesting how, yeah, the things you read, the things that you internalize,
yes,
stay with you your whole life. And the things, then the younger you are, the more, in a way, I think they become a part of you.
oh my goodness, yes. I'm praying that a lot of these kids, like what we're doing right now, I feel very strongly they're going to carry this on and make it even better and stronger. And I just would love to inspire them to, you know, put their efforts towards stuff that matters, put their efforts towards things that will last. You know, that was one thing that I did say to some, well, because if they do have a difference of opinion about the books or C.S. Lewis in general, I say, well, look, his books have lasted for this long, and look what he's produced that's been such a positive influence. I like to look at myself, or even, you know, and say, I hope I've done something, you know, that's lasted beyond me this long, that's inspired that many people. So and I'm hoping that the next kids actually see that, because, you know, Hollywood right now, Broadway, they have such a huge voice and a huge influence. We really do. We've got the creativity. I mean, we have the access to the creator. So we feel pretty strongly that we should be the most creative people. And it does take a lot of work. I know the first time we tried to do a Narnia production, it went way beyond what we were expecting. We just wanted to do really well with the book. We did not expect it to. I only expected to do one book. I never expected to do anything else. I actually, funny story, I had told my husband, I was really sick one Christmas, and I was sitting on the couch and sitting there blowing my nose, and, you know, with my blanket, and I'm watching this television show of a high school performance of A Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so I'm watching it, and I said to my husband, I'm like, wow, that is one series of books I would never direct. He goes, why? And I said, well, they're such beloved books, and you're competing with everyone's imaginations. I wouldn't touch those books with a 10-foot pole. And then I could just now imagine the Lord just like laughing at me because
Yeah.
like, oh, just wait.
Yeah.
But then it was one of those journeys where we really needed people to know about what we were doing, but how do we do that and not basically become like everybody else, where all we perform as Disney or something else that everybody else does. We wanted to do something that had an eternal value. So then, of course, somebody brings up Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm like, no. But it's been a great journey. So yeah, Silver Chair is going to happen. We are going to make that happen no matter what. And hopefully it'll be postponed so that you guys can come in person, because I want to meet you guys in person and get pictures.
Yes.
I'm also so
I'm
impressed with
planning
you
on it.
guys
I think I'm gonna.
because
When I
of how much you know about the books, and
Mhm.
you know, you're real experts on it. And that's just exciting to me to have somebody who cares about the books, who is so detailed about it and passionate about it, because I feel like this, like, oh, we can share in this, because you pour so much of yourself
Yeah.
into bringing them to life, and to have people that actually really know it it's fun.
Yeah.
It is. And I wanted to thank you for, I don't know if it was by special arrangement or if the script is opened, published, but for making your script available to be performed in California of Prince Caspian. That's also 4 hours away, but it's a lot closer than South Carolina. So I was able to take my kids, and
Oh, good.
they did a good job.
So bad.
What's that?
I wanted to go.
Yeah.
The actor that played Aslan, it was not a puppet, had such a loud voice they didn't need to mic him, and you didn't notice a difference.
Wow.
He was amazing. And that's not an easy role for a human to play. I've seen it done
Oh,
several times.
what I would love to hear that voice. My goodness. And that was really special to have them want to do the script. And I was excited about it. We were, you know, you think about it, you're trying to think about having your niche as far as we're the ones that are doing these scripts, but it was an exciting conversation to have. I was like, no, we need to be able to share this with people, to be able to do this so that young people can do quality scripts of the books.
Right. Because I've seen, almost any time it's in town, if I'm in reach of a Narnia show, I generally will go and take a look. And I've seen some very poorly done ones, and I've seen some that are much better. I've seen some that were good on certain aspects like set design and costumes, but not as good on, that show was pretty good, actually, that one that I'm thinking of. I didn't care for the music in the songs, but the rest of it was fairly strong, and everything in between. And that was actually the reason, because it is hard to find a good script to start with. Then you've got to get the actors and the sets and the costumes and everything else to line up. And that was the primary reason I went to see it. I was like, wait, Prince Caspian? Nobody's licensed to do Prince Caspian. There's one person who's licensed to do Prince Caspian. Who wrote this script? I'm going. So,
what a great story that one is too. In fact, what we're talking about doing is Prince Caspian this year, so that people can have a Narnia production, since we can't do Silver Chair, but we've already mounted Prince Caspian. So all the sets are in our warehouse. Everything's, put together. So it would be a lot less expense. We're going to have to find new Pevensies, because our Pevensies are all grown up. But that's the thing about these books, your children grow.
Yeah.
But if we can, pretty sure we'd be able to find the Pevensies. And that way, because there's a lot of people who want to see a Narnia production, and we would like to do a Narnia production, but we've got to be careful about the finances right now, especially keep our staff and keep our doors open.
Yeah.
I was wondering, if you were going to eventually rerun the old productions, because I only got to see Horse and His Boy there.
Yeah, I would. That's what we're planning on doing right now. So I mean, actually, you're the first people I've ever announced it to, but we're officially going to do Prince Caspian this year, starting in December, and then run it through the full year. And that way, while we're doing Prince Caspian, we're working behind the scenes on the Silver Chair, and hopefully the money too that we're bringing in from Prince Caspian can help other people, can see that we keep growing, that we're doing Narnia productions and they want to support it. I would love to, again, like I said, I really want to pursue the touring, because really without being able to stream the Narnia productions, without being able to sell DVDs, even to my cast members, they can't even watch DVDs of them doing it, you know?
Right. I was wondering about that. Yeah, I know they exist and they're in the vault, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And we've allowed them, we had a cast party and we played Prince Caspian for everybody and let them see it, but nobody can take it home or, you know, show anybody. But it was fun, you know, and so, but I've been thinking, because you have to think logistically too, it needs to help the ministry in more ways than just exposure. It needs to financially be able to help things going. So you're kind of like, oh, it doesn't, after you perform it live, it doesn't do anything else. But if it could tour, Prince Caspian, I think probably could. I'd have to rework some design, because I'm so used to using the turntable here.
Right.
That without a turntable, sometimes you're like, especially with Prince Caspian, there's so much wandering and traveling, and so there's some really cool techniques to do with the turntable. Also too, when they're climbing up, when you know, and they're actually in camp, I use the big mountain, but I'm turning it on the turntable so that you can see the soldiers on one side, you know, Miraz's soldiers, and then you can see them, but the stage is revolving you around. But I still have the Trumpkin that we had originally, and he is fantastic. I know he'd come back, and he actually lives in California, but we drove here. We went to high school together, and when I wanted to do the Trumpkin part, I thought, I just wish I could get John Harrett to play Trumpkin. He would be so perfect. And then, so my husband was like, well, just Facebook him and see if he'd come from California. And I don't think he would, but he did. So, but I really want to do Prince Caspian again, to be able to have a Narnia production while everybody's waiting on Silverchair.
So as I kind of meant to ask this earlier, but what is, now we already said you wear a lot of hats, so what does an artistic director do? Do you kind of have an overall vision? I can tell you know what you want to do as far as the sets. Do you design the costumes as well, or? So
my job basically is to oversee all the different departments, and so we have planning meetings, and it's really great because when you surround yourself with people who are really good at what they do and they're excellent. I love hearing, like, we have a saying in our artistic meetings where we're like, there's no, I don't really care whose idea it is. I'm just looking for the best idea. I don't care whose idea it is. And it's really been helpful, because then everybody just puts their input in when we're doing because you have to first off start with a brainstorm on, is this book possible? Right. You talk through all the different tricks that are going to be needed, and everybody puts their 2 cents in of, okay, we think that trick will be possible this way, because you don't want to announce you can do it and then not be able to do it. And then my job is to meet with each one of the departments, and I kind of give them the vision of what I'm trying to go for with the show. We start talking of different ideas, then we go to sketches where we sketch it all out, and there it'll go into like computer generated images from the hand sketches, especially with the set. So I think the Lord is, and I know as this changes, I think more people will come alongside to keep growing the Logos Theater. But right now I have had to wear several different hats, but you know, the Lord equips you with what you need. I do have ideas for, like, when I write the plays, I can see them in my head. So then I can come like to Joe Hainsworth, who's phenomenal with set design, and I can say, this is what I'm seeing. And then I don't know how he does it, but he figures out how to make it, you know, which is, I could never do that. And sometimes I feel bad, some of the ideas I come up with, you know, I'm like, I'm really sorry, Joe. But he's the one, he figured out how to do the Bridge of Baruna for Prince Caspian, because that bridge had to break apart 50 times and go back together. Wow. And the guy just, it was just amazing what he did with it. So, you know, different things like that. You work together as a team. Yeah. But with the costumes, yes, we sit down, the girls will come and they'll say, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And I'm saying, yeah, we like that, let's add this. What about we try to do this? And then from those ideas, we make a sketch. And then move forward from there. And I think the puppetry is the scariest part of it, just because, you know, I'm not a puppeteer, and so I had to learn really how to step into my role where we could talk, you know, and I could say, hey, those legs aren't going to work, let's try to think of something else. And you feel bad saying that at first, because I wouldn't know how to fix the legs, but it's my job to kind of see what needs to be fixed and kind of, I guess, call it for what it is, which when you're surrounded by people who actually don't have their ego involved and they all just want to do the best job they can, those conversations are so much easier. And that's what the staff is. They're just so good at what they do, and they're not doing it for themselves. So, you know, we all are able to work together really well. And the puppetry for Horse and His Boy, you know, I mean, it's going to have to carry these kids. They're going to have to do tricks. They're going to have to jump off the horse. The horse has to look like it's going to lay down and roll around. So even the horse we made for Caspian, we had to redesign the horses to make them more flexible.
Yeah.
Because our first horse couldn't do all the stuff you saw Bree and Quinn doing. So Isaiah and actually Justin Swain is over our puppetry department, and he just does a fantastic job doing a lot of work with EVA foam, trying to make it as light as possible for your puppeteers, because they're carrying about 80 pounds. That horse is about 80 pounds, and then you put, you know, Shasta or Erebus on it, which is another thing of casting. You've got to make sure you're casting kids who are not going to add too much weight to the horse, but that also can ride a horse well. So the Erebus girl, the girl that I'll tell you another funny story really quick. When she showed up for tryouts, nobody came for tryouts that I thought could play Erebus. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm looking at all these people, but nobody was standing out to me. And somebody said, hey, did you see this video of this girl? She's never been in a play before, and she's 13 years old. And I'm like, okay. So they show me the video, and what really stuck out to me, she was very shy. She's looking down. She's really shy, could hardly look up, but she had this gorgeous voice. And so I said, I wonder if I call her in for callbacks and I work with her a little bit and see what this girl is like, if she could do something like this. And really, her personality started coming out, and she was a sweet girl with a teachable spirit, and she wasn't full of herself. She was willing to be taught. 13 years old. And I told her, I said, look, this is going to be a lot of pressure. You know, people like you guys who love the books, I mean, there are going to be a lot of people coming who know what they're talking about. And you're playing this iconic character. It could either go to your head, or it can really upset you if they didn't like what you did, or, you know, whatever happens. I said, but you've got to know that this is what God wants you to do, and then just do it with all of your might. And that girl just, you know, 13 years old to carry a role like that. But the Lord worked it out to where she actually was a girl who's ridden horses all her life. So
that's awesome.
Riding the horse really worked.
Yeah, because now that you mentioned that, you put me on a horse and puppet, and I'm going to look very strange. I wouldn't know what I was.
Terror.
As I said, I fell off a horse.
Yeah, no, don't put me on the horse, anything but that. But they're very brave, and I was really thankful to work with young people that were not only excellent at working, but they were kind and they're humble, and it makes it very enjoyable.
So Swan, I think you had another question or two about the upcoming production.
Oh yeah, I probably do. I think some of them I've like started to sprinkle into conversation, but I haven't looked at my notes since we started. I asked that one. Well, not specifically about the production, but I was actually curious. Well, you've talked a little bit about, like, I think your dad reading the books to you as a kid, or your sort of own history with them. But I was curious maybe more about that, and also, like, which one is your favorite, if you're able to choose.
So hard. Well, my dad is actually the voice of Aslan in our shows.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was amazing. He was such a good one.
So I just loved him playing that part. And my mom played Quinn.
Yeah.
So that was my mom's voice as Swin. She fought me tooth and nail, but I was like, Mom, your voice is perfect. You've got to do this. But they read it to me. I had 3 sisters, so they would read the books to us. My dad did, and I have to say I go back and forth between Magician's Nephew and The Last Battle as my favorites. I love. In fact, if I could stop everything right now and do The Last Battle, I would, because it is so appropriate to what we're experiencing. And I just love the beauty of the writing of the ape and how he deceives and manipulates. And if people could understand how manipulators actually work, it's an important thing to see when you're being manipulated, you know, and to see how error comes in and how you can believe something, how you can get so far off from the truth when you think you're hearing something that's, you know, true. So the last battle in that way. And the magician's nephew, I cry talking about it, but my dad is sick, very sick, and you know, thinking about in that book when he looks into Aslan's eyes and Aslan's crying and he says it was almost as if he cared more about the loss of his mother than it hurt him more. And it just, the picture of that, of how much the Lord loves us and the relationship of the child, you know, of the child and the mother, and they're together, and you know, Diggory is just, I feel like I just see him in my head and I want to see him live on the stage so bad. And I also want to design so badly the set when they're going through the eaves of the houses. I have this idea in my head and I'm like, oh, I just want to get it out so bad. Right now, we're not able to do Magician's Nephew because somebody else owns the rights to that and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe now. So in America. So we'd have to do their script.
Come to Canada with me. It's all public domain here now.
Oh, really? Is it really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I'm thinking of putting on my own production. Yeah, it's all public domain here.
What? I will come there.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken when I realized I wouldn't be able to do my own script for Magician's Nephew because that one is just so but and then the scene, I had the scene in my mind, you know, at the end of the book when and I just wanted to see the mother well, and you know how the book is talking about how they, you know, they lived there and the different things, and the mother started getting well, and all the whole thing. I wanted, anyway, there was a way I wanted to end it, and I was like, and then I found out we couldn't do it. So, but maybe I'll come to Canada or somewhere else and do it.
You can join me.
There you go. I wondered if you were from Canada because I heard your really great accent. You've got that really cute accent, and I was like, I wonder where she's from. Well, you guys got really great questions. It's so much fun to talk about the shows with people who care about it because
oh, did we just lose Kristi?
Oh, I think we did.
Maybe she'll come back. Yeah. I really love talking about this with you too. It just
the process of doing the productions is, so it is nice, like after the first showing of something, especially when Mr. Gresham started coming, that raised the pressure a little bit.
I imagine so.
But he was so kind about everything. But when he first came for Prince Caspian, after the opening weekend was done, I was like, ooh, because you know, I was really interested to know what he thought of it and how he, you know, what his experience would be like. So thankfully he really liked it, and he's going to come back for the Silver Chair. And we've been talking back and forth. Bless his heart, he's been stranded on an island during this whole COVID-19 thing. So we've been praying for him because he was there doing something, and then the COVID-19 happened and he couldn't leave.
One of my sisters is sort of quarantined on an island too.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's the island. It's like my family's from Barbados, and she was back there teaching at a med school, and anyway. But yeah, she's on a beach now, so she's not doing too badly. But yeah,
I know. I was to say, if it's a nice island, it's a really extended vacation. But yeah, he was great with that. And then when he came back for A Horse and His Boy, that was also really special to have him there. I know because the book
is actually dedicated to him. It's just
I was thinking, no pressure, just yeah, I know. But he's so clever, and he never answers a question the way you expect him to answer it. So I always enjoy hearing him discourse about things because I'm like, wow, that was not what I was expecting, but it's very deep and very genuine. So if you can even, you know, tell your viewers and your supporters that the more we can have the Narnia community behind us and supporting what we're trying to do, the more we were able to not only mount them in South Carolina, but, you know, Lord willing, take them places.
So give more
because like Magician's Nephew, if we mounted that, but we mounted it for a traveling show that wasn't going to be in the United States, but like in Canada or something like that, then, so the more that Narnia fans can really get behind us and say, hey, we want more of this type of script. And, people listen to that. People listen to people supporting something, and then they're going to want to give more of what people are actually really supporting. So I think maybe that's our track to getting even better movies and, things like that done, is the more we say, hey, we like this, when you actually stick to the books, or you really, have respect for them.
Yeah, if you really get to the heart of what the book is about, and you care about that, and you're able to bring it across, I feel like that's the central thing that's missing for me in the films, is that it's not really, at least not completely, made by people who really get it, or who really understand.
And you can feel that.
Yeah, and they might be good. They might, like, glimmers of it might sneak through, but like something is missing.
Yes, and there's such great stories that no matter what, they're going to be entertaining, and they're going to be, because they're just great stories.
Yeah.
But really, with a director, like, where you're going to focus, like for me, the focusing of I'm going to get her back on here.
Okay.
The focusing of when Trumpkin first meets Aslan. Hi, Kristi, welcome back.
Hi.
Sorry.
The internet just stopped working for a few minutes.
No, I'm sorry. We were talking about just the importance of kind of the Narnia community getting behind people who really get the books and say, hey, we want more scripts like this, where people who are trying to produce it, who really care not just about how this is a great story, but it get the point of the books. Like, as I was saying, like, as a director, I hadn't seen Prince Caspian. I did not look at Prince Caspian the whole time while I was doing it, just to make sure I wasn't influenced by anything of the movie. But even the moment where Trumpkin first sees Aslan and that interaction, I just was like, no, because it's such a moment that I was fighting for in the production, to be as close to what the book says, even if I couldn't do everything the book described, but if I could give you the essence of the feeling
Right.
of Trumpkin and Aslan, it's so important, and so fighting for those different moments. So I'm hoping that I know that, just talking to Mr. Gresham about it, he really wants the same thing. He wants these books to be done by people who really care about it. He wants them to be done right. He wants them to be on the world stage. I mentioned a very big idea to him recently, and he's all for it. It's just, how do we take those steps to really put, books like this that need to get the attention that they really deserve. How can we as a community say, hey, let's come together, let's really support excellent scripts of these books and see if we can put them in the limelight.
Right.
Get people to really respect what is already very respectable. But if they aren't treated well, I don't know. And I think one of the reasons I've been trying to think about this, why sometimes the scripts are not, but maybe it's because they're thinking they're just for children, and so they kind of trivialize things and kind of make it more kid-like, rather than understanding that children can really appreciate deep things as well. They don't have to have it so dumbed down for us. They can handle the story given to them the way the story was written. So.
And then I was just thinking, because I dropped out a little after you mentioned that you weren't able to do Magician's Nephew. Is that a forever thing, or is that a for later thing, or?
I'm not sure. So what's happening right now is it's a certain level of who owns the rights for certain groups of audience members. And since our theater is not a huge theater, we fall under a certain category, even though when we were talking to Mr. Gresham, he considers us to be in a professional category. Because our theater doesn't seat X amount of people, we fall under a different category. So I think it has to do with, if we can get it into a venue that is the right number, then we go into a new bracket, and there'd be a new kind of person to talk to about vetting a script. And ultimately it has to come through the C.S. Lewis, with Mr. Gresham and everything, they've got to approve it. But they have also made certain deals with certain people for, like the amateur version of a script is already owned by such and such a person, So you go through a lot of different things, and I know that's all part of it, but sometimes I wish it's like, oh.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I'm like, sometimes I'm very much like, can I move to Canada? Yeah.
I can't believe it's just free game there.
Yes.
South Africa too. We have a staff member in South Africa.
Oh yeah, yeah. The one downside to it being public domain is that they don't have to have their scripts vetted. So there was the shock in Niagara. I went to see their production of Magician's Nephew, and I thought it was pretty good. But then when it came to doing The Horse and His Boy, and I was so excited when I heard they were doing that. Then I heard a little bit more about what they were doing with it, and then I was like, never mind, I'm not going to go watch that. And yeah, because they didn't have to have approval. And so that was actually part of the getting my hopes up. It was part of the push for me to be like, okay, no, I'm going to South Carolina. I'm going to see the good one.
Wow, I did not realize. So they don't have to get the scripts vetted or anything.
Nope, no. But then I thought, like, hey, on the plus side of that, I could just write my own script and try to make people do it somewhere in Canada. I'll give it to them for free, and then just make them give me a ticket.
Wow. Well, even if I was in Canada, I'd probably still want to vet my script. That was
exactly
when I was working with Mr. Grisham the first time. I was not sure I could do the water trick of Caspian when they're playing in the water. They get sucked in Narnia, and so they land on the beach, and then they play, you know. And I wanted to do that, but I was like, I've never done water like that where people get in and play in it. So I was writing it to where Susan would stay out of the water and kind of be like, you know, sometimes she was a little Debbie Downer throughout that anyway. So I was like, well, I could use Susan a little bit. And that way, if my water effect isn't good, I can focus the lighting on Susan and kind of pull the audience eye away from the water. Oh, but no, he held my feet to the fire. He was like, no, they all four played in the water. Okay. So it was like, fine, they're all going to play in the water. So I remember like writing it and being like, how are we going to do this? Okay. But the other funny story about Prince Caspian was I had not read the book in several years. When we announced we were going to do Prince Caspian, we had talked through things, but not, I was just thinking that was the natural next step of doing Prince Caspian. And this older gentleman came up to me after we announced we were doing Prince Caspian. He said, you know what I'm so excited about? And I said, what? And he said, I can't wait to see how you do that water god. And I had forgotten about the water god. And I was like, yeah. And he said, you know, how are you going to have him come and destroy the Bridge of Bruna? And all I could think to say was like, well, you're going to have to come and find out.
Yeah, that's
And I walked over to my husband. I'm like, is there a water god that destroys the bridge? I'm forgetting. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Okay, we need to go meet. You know? But the Lord was gracious to us in that, and the water god effect really worked out really well. It was one of those things too. I didn't want to do the Shakespeare route where everything. My dad trained me with everything, and he would always tease. He would be like, with Shakespeare, everything interesting happens off stage. You know, somebody runs in, talks about the battle, you know, and then they run off, and you're like, man, I wish I was off stage. All the exciting things are happening over there. So he was warning me not to do that with the Narnia books. He was like, as much as you can, show as much as you can, you know. So Bridge of Bruna had to be, we couldn't just talk about it, you know, we needed to be that water god. So
and going back to the sort of the rights note, what is this the first production of Silverchair, the first official one, or?
I think the first like official large production of it. I think there's been a couple of people. I saw one very small kind of, it looked like a church or a school had done, you know, something, but nothing of the professional level of, you know, what we're going to bring to it. So yes, this will be the first time it's brought on stage. I really feel like these books need to be, not that I don't love our venue, but they need to be in front of more people than even what our venue can to do. We are praying right now about actually looking at our venue, because with this COVID-19, if this happens again, we kind of want to prepare ourselves and make our theater more like a social distancing theater. So we are considering turning it into a dinner theater where there will be less seats. They can be spread out, and a lot of people want a dinner, and we would love to do that. Partner with a local restaurant to actually help them out, but also be able to, if this happens again, we could still go because we could seat people in smaller amounts that are separate from each other. because no matter what, we've got to figure out ways moving forward, if this kind of stuff does happen, to kind of think outside the box so we don't have to shut down. We can keep things going.
Yeah,
So
I've been wondering why more drive-in movies aren't picking up around here, but they seem to have closed them as well. And it's like, but why?
I know, but why?
Why?
I know. Thankfully, I don't know what it's like there for you guys, but here, a lot of restaurants have been doing that outdoor. They're putting up tents and different things, and they're allowing people to eat out in the tents and outside.
Oh, I don't think
I
we
think
are
they
in
take it.
California.
I've been doing that sometimes, or drive-throughs, but yeah.
With California, I imagine it's probably different. It's probably going to take a little bit longer for you guys to open up.
I would think so. I want to say they were saying something about the 15th, but I'm not sure that's even accurate anymore.
Yeah, it changes, it seems like, by the day.
Yeah, most of the takeout places are open, but I don't think there's any dining in going on right now.
That was a change for us, and it was nice to see people conversing and, out and about.
Yeah, that's good.
Thankfully, we've been able to kind of focus on our film side of our ministry. We do, and we've put together a children's show called Nicole's Attic, and it's streaming on our virtual theater, and it's just a way for us to still be able to reach into the homes and teach young people, theater and our philosophy of how we do things right now while they're stuck at home. So it was nice to be able to kind of, like we were saying, you shift and one door closes, thing, opens up. So none of us are giving up hope on doing the silver chair. We're going to make it happen no matter what, but it's going to be quite the undertaking. Now we are all going into it with our eyes wide open because we've done, several books now. So it's like, we know what's going to happen.
So what's a marshmallow going to look like? Because I've been thinking about doing my own cosplay, trying to make webbed hands. I don't know if you've thought about that much yet.
It's probably going to have to be a major hybrid between our costume department and the puppetry department, where they kind of like put their brains together. And the hardest thing is to try to make it look like the book, but then the actor to be able to function well enough, to be able to do the role.
Yeah,
it's almost like you'd need stilts, but not complete, because you can't have him too high, but he doesn't. It's like you don't want it to just be he's a really tall, skinny man either. So that's
true. Hey, I will say, any Narnia fans want to send sketches or ideas, we are do it. We'll put it out there and be like, hey, this design was inspired by so and so from the Narnia fan Lion's Call.
Yeah.
Okay. Where should they send that? Because I'm sure we have some people who will take you up on that.
Okay. Hey, more brain power, the better.
Okay.
They can send it to sdeason, DEASON, at theacademyofarts.org, and he will get it to our design group, and we'll use that design. We'll shout you guys out, and that would be
awesome. Because basically the Lion's Call we're like a little art think tank about Narnia. Because basically all we do is sit around and give each other art challenges and make art together. So
pretty much.
That's amazing.
And talk about Narnia. So that sounds actually like a good challenge to us. And maybe someday if we'll get like, even if it's one tiny little detail that goes into the play, we'll be like, that was us.
There you go.
Maybe we should make that one of our Badger's Burrow. We've been doing some activities to do at home.
My coloring. Kristi coloring page. We're making new Narnian activities twice a week and posting them like on Facebook and on our site.
That's so fun.
Coloring pages. I did a sculpture lesson, and Kristi's been doing drawing lessons and got recipes and stuff. Anyway, it's been fun.
That is, hey, if you ever want a costume character to come and talk to the kids, we would love to do that and show them like a prop, because we've got so many. When Josh Baker joined our ministry, we have unbelievable stuff, so like even Susan's horn and a bunch of like amazing things that maybe the kids would like to see. And I know our people would just love to do that, just to be able to do it and be like, hey, because I was thinking about Lazarly would be a hilarious one to have tea with.
Oh, wow.
It would be hysterical,
That would be fun.
If the actor just stayed in character the whole time.
Yes, it would be. We've done some kind of like sketches and, sketch comedy on our YouTube channel of various things. We're not, not on our amateur level.
No, it's so fun.
It'd be fun to kind of like collaborate on something like that. It would be really fun. Like if
you guys let me know and I'll make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was thinking that too. I'm looking at all these costumes that we have and props that are sitting around right now. I'm like, you need to put these to good use.
That would be amazing, yeah.
But maybe we could actually do that. We were talking about doing some contests for some of the Badgersboro events. Maybe we could have one where we just kind of solicit on your behalf. Hey, send some of these in, and maybe they'll choose one, and they could post them in our Facebook comments, and we could let you guys know.
Oh yes, totally. That would be amazing. So much. I mean, I think that I just love seeing people's creativity. Just everybody's gonna see something different, and it's just really cool to see perspectives. And and I love the fact that Narnia fans, like, we actually care about the Narnia books, and that's my dog, by the way.
Yeah, hi
dog. People that love Narnia and actually care about thinking about ideas and ways to make it come to life. It really takes care and thought. I mean, these kind of things just don't happen. You got to really, take the time to really think about it. So I love too that what is that called? It's called
Badgersboro.
Badgersboro.
We were trying to think of something that wasn't like the 100-Year Winter or Narnians in hiding, because we don't feel like we're hiding, but
right. That's a great name.
Yeah, Badgersboro would be.
Since lockdown, basically, we started doing it, and like every Tuesday and Thursday, just posting, like, whether it's the coloring page or a scavenger hunt or a video art lesson or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. So can people just, when they follow you, then they're able to come and see those things?
Yes. So we do post them on Facebook, so you could follow us there, or just checking it on our site. All of them will be there on the, there's a link on the main page. Yeah.
I'll make sure I spread the word, because I know all the people here that really love that, they would probably love to have their kids do that, and I can tell them to look at that and start following that, and that would be really, I would love my son to do that. He would have a lot of fun.
Awesome. That'd be great to share, because I would love to just for that to spread it further.
Yeah, definitely. Now that was my little boy playing the young Shasta and Horse and His Boy.
Yes,
so he's my little one.
Him?
Yeah, he just turned 10, so he's getting really tall.
He's getting very tall then. Wow.
Because that was the extra scene where you actually, because in the book, Shasta references that when he's at the tombs about throwing stones at the cat when he was younger.
Yes.
I thought that was a really interesting choice to include that, and then it kind of almost suggests, because it's the same cat puppet, it made me realize, could it have been Aslan there too? And then the parallels, that was one of the things that I that I especially loved about it.
I'm so glad you liked it, because it was important to me that they understand that Aslan's been with him from the beginning.
Exactly. Yes.
I was the one, and
so it really made you feel that,
and it was fun, because I was not sure how Brenton would respond acting off of the puppet, because at first, I mean, for a little, he was 9 at the time, but he turned 9 while he was playing it, and he's 8 at first, and I'm like, this could be weird, but he played off of the cat so well, and the girls that puppet the cat did well with making it move and do its little things with him. I think next time, if we do Horse and His Boy again, we're gonna play with the paint job on the cat a little bit more, just to make him stand out a little bit, because it was really hard to get to see him sometimes. And the kind of puppetry that they did, it was like a Japanese style puppetry, so it's made to have more people involved. However, if you've got to make the cat pop a little bit more, so that you're noticing the cat more than the puppeteers. So that's something we're gonna look at. You're always looking at it and going like, I'm the worst, because I can't ever seem to enjoy it. I'm just always looking at the things I want to change. So
well, I enjoyed it for you.
Thank you. Because sometimes my husband's like, Nicole, just enjoy it. I'm trying.
Because that was one of the things that surprised me the most, was like how good the cat puppet was. It was just like,
I'll tell you, the trick of turning the cat into the lion was probably one of the scariest things.
Yeah, that was amazing though.
So basically working with different things and optical illusions and stuff and lighting, and trying to have the cat walk and then the lion come out. but it was, when we finally figured it out, it was very relieving.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just burst into like applause. We're like, yay!
Yeah.
Because you're thinking we better figure that, we better, because you had it in theory, but doing it in real time and then hitting that trick every night, because I think we performed that one close to 50 times. So hitting that trick every night, and
Yeah.
when there's many people involved in the trick,
Yeah.
one person could kind of get lazy or maybe be distracted and not do their job exactly right, and then you're in big trouble.
That was one of the places where, you know, you have to be so careful, not only when you cut, but when you add something to a beloved book. And that's one of the places where, yeah, you really pulled it off and even enhanced the story in a way, because The Horse and His Boy, and I know Swan and I, that's actually our favorite book.
Yeah.
And because it plays so much on the sovereignty of God and his presence always with us, that we're never alone, that it just falls so naturally into the story. It's one of those additions that, you know, that you're not even like, oh, I don't mind that. You're like, that's great. That was a great inclusion.
Oh, I'm so glad. Because you tread very lightly on things like that. You want to make sure. I had to deal with that with Prince Caspian, and I was worried because the first time I submitted the script, they said no to me. And I was like, she said, you can't add anybody into the script that's not in the book. And one of the things I felt about the story with Prince Caspian, as much as I love the story, but when you translate it onto stage, if you don't have somebody that you connect to emotionally with Caspian, you don't care as much when he gets hurt or when he has to flee. You've got to emotionally connect to him. And to me, it was the nurse, and then I needed somebody inside the castle to connect to Caspian. And I also needed a functionality thing of putting somebody through the sticks at the end. And so I made this character, Jocko, who's his kind of horse boy, who takes care of his horses and stuff like that, who is like a best friend to him, who helps him flee, gets him his horse and helps him flee. And then he's the guy at the end who gives the sword to Caspian and goes through the sticks. So you've emotionally connected to this person who's going to go through the sticks.
Yeah.
But I felt
like, but why did he leave then?
And so they said that I couldn't do those things, and I thought, oh no. So I didn't know what to say because I had never vetted my script, any script like that with them. So I decided to kind of just write my reasons, like very respectfully, and just say like, well, this is my reasons why I'm doing these different things. And then all of a sudden it was Mr. Gresham that wrote me back. And I was like, is this Douglas Gresham? Like,
yeah.
And so he starts writing me back, and then it was like he loved all of my ideas, and I was like, oh, good, okay. So he was giving me ways. He's like, well, just don't put the name down, just call it Telmarine 1, and in the script, instead of saying Jocko, put Telmarine 1.
Yeah.
And he gave me a couple of tips on how to make sure it passed all of the little checkpoints, but he actually really encouraged me on that, because I expanded the nurse role, because I felt like that human connection, and I got to actually play the nurse with my son when we did it here.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that character.
Which to me is so when you see him torn away from this world and everybody that he's ever loved, you're just like, your heart is with Caspian.
Right.
So I really wanted them to feel the human side of him, and the nurse plays into that. And having a son and thinking of trying to raise him and trying to pour into him, and then someone taking me from him. Devastation of a child. I mean, it would be, and here comes Dr. Cornelius, but then he's scary at first to Caspian, but then he's just so endearing, and he's so nurturing, and it's such a great relationship that ends up being formed there. But yeah, it is hard. You're making those decisions on, okay, I don't want to add this here for for people, especially too, because I have to keep in mind when I'm doing the books, there's a lot of people down here who, I don't know how, but they're not familiar with the books. And so you're trying to think of it from their perspective of, they're like, what is this world, and who are these people, and why should I care about them, So it's fun. The creatures are like Reepicheep was for me
Oh,
one of the most important like casting jobs for Reepicheep, because
Yeah.
this has to be a small enough kid who can look like a mouse, but
mhm.
he's got to be dynamo, you know.
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah.
So, and then we did a trick with the tail. I don't know sure how they did it in California, but we had this trick that we did to make the tail appear. And the little boy, he had to do that trick every night and make the tail, you know. So you have to have your wits about you, because while Aslan's talking to you, he's getting ready to do that very much sleight of hand, what's going to happen. You get the audiences like, whoa, you know, and the tail just bam is there.
I
Awesome.
don't remember what they did with that. I remember there was something where Dr. Cornelius, when it was revealed that he was a dwarf, I think if you actually look on our page when I reviewed that play, I think he's the one photobombing the nurse, who's the main
Oh, really?
the main picture, and she resembles you a little actually.
Oh, really?
And if you look at the picture, he's not short at all. He's a very
Really?
tall man, and so Caspian is like. They had to do a double take because they couldn't change the script, but obviously that was the only actor they could get.
Oh my goodness. Like, not many of the genes came through in the height thing, but I promise you I'm half dwarf.
Yeah.
Well, our guy that played it, he did a fantastic job with Cornelius, but he had to squat because he's not super tall, but he had to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we made his costume such that you couldn't tell he was doing it.
Okay.
So, but it took some major leg power.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Trumpkin was good because he was actually shorter, you know, himself, but he's a dynamic actor. He's just phenomenal. So that was fun. It was fun to watch him really bring that part to life. And when he joined our cast, it kind of just gelled. Everybody, he came late to the practices because obviously he was in California, and I had contacted him later.
Yeah.
And so we had been practicing for about 2 weeks when he joined us. And it was just, all of a sudden you were like, okay, this is it. This is right. The chemistry between the four who had been playing the roles for 3 years at that point together. So their chemistry was really tight. And then to bring in a new person.
Oh,
You know,
see,
so,
the cast that played in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was able to graduate onto Prince Caspian. That's great.
Oh,
they carried it all the way through. They played it 3 years, and you watched Lucy actually grow in the right order.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing to watch. The little girl that played Lucy, I'm telling you, in that scene with Caspian, in Caspian, where she's talking to Aslan, and he's, you know, she's saying, have you grown taller? And he says, you know, every year, you know, that I will, basically, as you grow, I will appear to be bigger. And that whole scene when he says that you must follow me alone, no matter what they do, follow me alone. And when we would rehearse it, you know, I'm crying talking to her about it, and then her tenderness, and every night she would bring that tenderness where she's just weeping when she's asking them to come, and then she turns around, and I told her, I said, you know, Morgan, someday when you get older, not everybody that you've loved your whole life or have you been friends with are going to follow the Lord. And I have had people in my life whom I've loved, but they've gone a different direction. And that line where she says, I had hoped that you would all come with me, but I must follow him, whether any of you do or not.
Yeah.
And when she says that line, she would every night I would be behind the rock because I played the nurse and I was barely in it. I was at the beginning and then I didn't show up till the end. So I would always hide behind the rock in that scene and just watch that little girl just pour her heart out. And it was just such a beautiful scene. So it was very special. It was, you know, one line that I added in there that I feel like was part of the whole temperature of the whole book was when she said, I must keep my eyes on him alone and follow. And, you know, every time I've done these books, it's like that, whatever message is in that book, it was so apropos to what was going on in my life.
Yeah.
You know, just keep your eyes on Christ and follow him. Even when other people are saying, you know, and doubting, don't doubt. Even if you've got to follow alone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was actually just listening to that today because I'm listening to the audiobook of Prince Caspian.
Oh, yes. You know, I was listening to that audio book. Were you thinking of Focus on the Family's version?
Oh no, that's really good. And I'm just listening to like a straight one person reading it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
but
was
I do
listening to
love that the Focus on the Family's radio theater as well.
when I was listening to that one
Mm.
is when the idea came to use the ending at the beginning. He
Mm.
says, many years ago in a land far from Narnia, you know, and it was like when the audiobook started, the guy starts saying, whoever played Aslan was saying that, where he starts giving the backstory of, you know, everybody. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a beginning, like to give you that kind of prep for who these people are, especially for people who don't know the story and they don't know what they're about to see. And then for me, what did they do in California? Because for us, we did a baby. I was holding, actually, some of our staff babies would play that role where I would hold like a 3-month-old.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember now. You said in the beginning in a land far from Narnia?
It's at the very beginning. It's like when you hear, I don't know if maybe they didn't do it how we did it, but there's like a narration and you're
I think
seeing
they
the
borrowed
boat.
your sound. I think they borrowed your sound design.
Okay.
I want to say.
So was it my voice narrating it?
Maybe.
But that basically at the end of that, I wanted it to be where the nurse is holding up an infant version of Caspian, so that you could see she'd been teaching him from very, very small all the way. But I had to have it be an infant, because if it wasn't an infant, then Caspian would know, and he's not supposed to know like everything, you know, like he doesn't know everything. When he's talking to Cornelius, he doesn't understand the whole picture, but he was told about, you know, these different things from his nurse. So I had to be careful because that ending really gives everything away, and I couldn't have an old enough Caspian to hear all that, you know, so it had to be a baby. So, but we played it with every night I could bring on a staff child, and I would have an actual infant on the stage with me, which was terrifying, but a lot of, and each baby would look at me different. Like one baby was hilarious because he actually got to the point where he was a couple months old and he could make noises, and when I hold him up, I would say, Prince Caspian, you know, I'm holding him up. And the little boy, everybody would clap for the baby. So the crowd would just burst into applause when I would say Prince Caspian. And he started to realizing, hey, they're clapping for me, even as this tiny little child. So he turns the one night and he looks at the audience and he goes, Cass, Cass. And claps for himself, you know. And the audience just lost it. He was like, come on, people, let's do this.
Keep clapping,
So you never knew what the babies were going to do, but it was fun to have them on the stage with us.
Yeah.
So this has been so much fun. You guys are great to talk to.
Yes, enjoyed talking to you so much.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would especially like them to know about the upcoming production or about the Logos Theater?
I would say if they can, the same thing with, you know, what you guys are trying to do with yours, if they can like and share and, you know, follow us on Facebook, Logos Theater. We're on Instagram and Twitter and everything, and just trying to really get the community of the Narnia community to just, you know that number one, we are doing the productions as top notch as we possibly can produce, but we also need their financial support and their word of mouth to really get the word out about what we're doing. And, you know, people who love the books to really get behind it. So, you know, we want to do Prince Caspian this year, but then so that we can give ourselves a little bit more time to get our feet underneath us from all the COVID stuff, and so that we can do Silver Chair next. But, you know, if the Narnia fans would be the one to really help us do that, it would be awesome, because then people are getting behind it that actually really care, you know, about the book. So the more they get behind us, the better we can do it. I'd love to do it with full out projections. One way or another, we'll do it, even if we can't afford the projections. But sometimes I look at Broadway and see the amount of money that they have. And when you have the money, you have time. I mean, everything kind of follows the funding. But I think these books are worth funding.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can do that and follow us. And then, you know, you guys having me on and me getting to, you know, get to chat with you guys and your listeners and followers watch, and it all just helps us work together to really spread the word about, things that are worthwhile our kids reading and then seeing come to life.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I would hear kids go like, wow, I haven't read that book, now I want to go read the book, you're just like, yeah. So it's exciting stuff. I'm thankful for what you guys are doing. I really am.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Nicole.
Thank you for helping me spread the word.
Absolutely. So this has been just a wonderful talk, and to everyone out there, we thank you for joining us tonight with Nicole Stratton, the scriptwriter and artistic director at Logos Theater. And they've done several Narnia productions, and we hope that they will do several more. And we hope we'll get a chance to talk with her again. So.
Very much so. And if you guys come, the tickets are on me. For you two, you got to come as my guests. I would love to have you for the silver chair.
Oh, thank you.
It's actually the second favorite.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.